This story of a man who is called a good-for-nothing husband even by his daughter, and how he punishes his wife and her affair partner. Enjoy. Is anyone here? I would like to seek advice regarding my wife's infidelity. Details. I am a 36-year-old company employee. My wife is a 36-year-old housewife. We have been married for 16 years and have a 15-year-old daughter. The other man is a 36-year-old company employee. Our daughter, a 9th grader, found the other man and my wife sleeping naked together at home and called me. I left work early and picked up my daughter at a convenience store. I checked the photos, and although the quality was poor, it seemed to be true. For the time being, I took my daughter to the hospital, but she seemed to be fine. To be honest, I was in shock and vomited several times, and I'm the one in critical condition. I bought my daughter a cell phone. The other man was my classmate, and the one who introduced me to my wife. My daughter hates my wife and wants us to get divorced. I wish to have a serious discussion with my wife and hope for reconciliation, but my daughter is firmly against it. My daughter is currently in the car playing with her cell phone. My farts are all jumbled up, and I feel incredibly nauseous. The other man and his wife have no children, and they have been really kind to us and our daughter, so it's a double shock. My daughter seems to be most shocked by the fact that the other man is involved. The other man's wife is also my classmate and a wonderful person, so I'm torn between handling this matter discreetly for the sake of their family or not. My daughter told me, as long as I'm with you, Dad, I don't need Mom. Should I start by gathering evidence? There are many harsh opinions, but from a third-party perspective, it seems that reconciliation is not possible after all. It's laughable that you say he's a really good person despite having an affair. I can't stop laughing. Right now, I hate both the other man and my wife. When I imagine the two of them together, I really want to kill them. But my daughter is the most important thing. I'm thinking of pretending not to know and gathering evidence, but I'm worried if my acting skills will be good enough. My daughter is saying, I'm good at acting. There are many harsh opinions, but I think they are reasonable. I'll do my best as a good-for-nothing husband. Tonight, after my wife falls asleep, I'll search the house. I should keep quiet to the other man's wife until I gather evidence, right? My daughter insists that we should also get the other man's wife to cooperate. I'm starting to have trust issues and worry that it would be bad if the other man's wife is also involved. While keeping your daughter safe, if you set up an IC recorder or video camera in your home, you might be able to gather evidence quickly. Thank you for the specific advice. I'll try using my work IC recorder. For now, I'll try it in cooperation with my daughter. At times like this, a third-party perspective is really appreciated. I've calmed down a little. Thank you so much. If your daughter is telling you that it's better to get divorced, I think divorce is the way to go. My wife is taking a bath now. When I checked the email history on her old cell phone, I found out that she was already having an affair 9 years ago. My daughter is saying, maybe I should get a DNA test. I want to believe it hasn't been going on since 15 years ago, and no matter what, she's still my daughter. I was such an idiot for talking about reconciliation. When the parents are no good, the daughter becomes strong. In other words, not only to your wife, but also to your daughter, you're a useless, good-for-nothing husband. That stings. In the emails between my wife and the other man, they called me a coward. My daughter is also saying, I agree that Dad is a coward. I want to do something about my daughter making me cry by saying, since you are a coward, if I claim to be your daughter, you'll have no choice but to accept it. I'm really being supported by my daughter. From the content of the emails, it seems the other man's wife doesn't know about the affair. At least at the time they were emailing. Your name is definitely decided as coward. And so, the username has become Coward here, but Mr. Coward is starting to flip the switch. It kind of fits. Today's plan? I search the house and check her cell phone after my wife falls asleep. I plan to set up email forwarding if I can access her cell phone. The other man doesn't use a cell phone, so he might be using emails. Tomorrow, I'm planning to go to a detective agency. If possible, I'd like them to introduce a lawyer too. I've determined that it's too risky to confront her with the current situation. I want to gather more evidence first. And so, the evidence gathering steadily begins. My wife is asleep, but I'll hold out until around 1 a.m. I've kept 3 old cell phones. 2 of them, including the ones she had before we started dating, won't turn on even when charged. The quality of my daughter's photos is questionable, so I want stronger evidence. I'll definitely get custody. And compensation money too. I want to go to the other man's workplace and make him quit, but since he is a contract driver, there might not be much benefit in making him quit his job. I just want him to go to hell. I found a shopping bag, potato chip bag, tissue, and used condom at the bottom of the trash can. Does my wife seriously have any intention of hiding this? I got a new condom and 2 hotel stamp cards from her wallet. For now, I'll take photos and put them back. I unlocked my wife's cell phone and copied the data. Email forwarding is set up. I briefly checked the emails, but the other man's wife was innocent. In fact, both the other man's wife and I have been ridiculed a lot. My wife dislikes our daughter, but it bothers me that the other man is fond of her. I'm beyond angry thinking about how I was deceived for years by these idiots who leave so much evidence in just one night. Right now, I'm suspicious of whether she has any other men. Though at the moment, there are no signs at all. Tomorrow, in addition to securing a detective agency and lawyer, I also need to make an appointment with the other man's wife. Do you know how to contact the other man's wife? The other man's wife was my classmate. I know her phone number, address, and workplace. Also, an email was forwarded to me. My daughter bought a cell phone, so if you want to know her number, why don't you come over? Really? I'll take a short nap and come right away. Just wait. I'm really going to send them to hell. The wife plans to divorce and take the daughter to the other man, and the other man might be targeting the daughter too. And then the next day, I'm at the detective agency now. Things are starting to develop at a dizzying pace, and I can't keep up. Apparently, I'm going straight to the lawyer's office from here. The feeling of being left behind is intense. This is getting crazy. For now, all I can say is do your best. The other man's wife apparently used this detective agency and lawyer before to corner the other man. It seems that it didn't lead to divorce in the end, but the lawyer contacted the other man's wife, and she's leaving work early to come here. Humans really do vomit when they get too nervous. The flow so far. I consulted the detective agency. A scary-looking old man is handling it. I briefly explained the situation. His face changed when the other man's name came up. He can't give details, but apparently, there's a lawyer he wants to introduce. The old man makes an appointment with the lawyer over the phone. I move to the lawyer's office. Another old man lawyer comes out. He had previously consulted with the other man's wife. He wants to inform the other man's wife about this matter and asks for my permission. I give my consent. The lawyer calls the other man's wife. The other man's wife says she'll leave work early and come right away. Until the other man's wife arrives, I explain my situation. The other man's wife arrives and immediately prostrates herself before me in apology. The lawyer calms her down, and I explain my situation again. The other man's wife confesses her past ordeal. The lawyer suggests taking a short break for now. Today, You're going to bust into the affair scene, right? Apparently, it's to prove past infidelity and gather evidence of multiple affairs. Since the other man's family's intervention is certain based on past events, they're proceeding cautiously. Whoa, looks like the coward is finally growing a pair. By the way, that past infidelity you mentioned, is that about your wife? The past one was apparently with a different married woman. This is getting crazy. Things are heating up. Do your best. It's close to scribbling, but it's roughly like this. 10 years ago, the other man's wife got pregnant. The other man's affair was discovered. While consulting with the old man detective agency and old man lawyer, the other man's wife had a miscarriage due to the other man's violence while drunk and became unable to have children. She received a large amount of compensation, including consolation money, from the other man's side, but the other man's family caused a lot of trouble. The other man's mother and sister are terrible people and overprotective of him. In the end, it didn't lead to divorce, and it settled with the other man working to pay consolation money to his wife, separating their marital assets, and agreeing to immediate divorce if he cheats again. The other man's wife routinely checked his cell phone but never noticed anything. She wants to deal the final blow this time. The other man's wife was crying upon learning that he's been cheating since at least 9 years ago. The other man. He becomes violent when drunk. Until last year, he was paying the husband of his previous affair partner $400 per month and just finished paying it off. His family sold their house to pay consolation money to his wife. Their assets are divided, but the other man's savings are almost zero, and the house is owned by his wife. They are in a sexless and separated state until his wife forgives him. They acted like a good couple in public. The other man's wife. I was lonely without children and doted on your daughter. The other man's wife is also a victim. My daughter will be happy, so please continue to dote on her without the other man. I think he made a move on your dirty wife because we were in a sexless marriage. It's not the other man's wife's responsibility. The cheaters are completely at fault. Please punish the other man and myself as coward desires. I want custody, and I want the cheaters to experience the worst hell possible, so I need your cooperation. I want to meet your daughter and apologize to her. I'll let my daughter know. She's happy to have a cell phone, so I think she'll be glad to have someone to talk to. I'll go file a divorce rejection application as instructed by the lawyer. The other man is done for. Be careful because people with nothing left are scary. This is crazy when you think it's happening in real time. Do your best, coward. I successfully met up with my daughter. I felt like I wasn't alive until I saw her, even though she just went to school. Were there any signs of them doing today too? I confirmed from the monkeys' emails that they were raring to go today. My daughter absolutely refuses to commute from my parents' house. My parents are trying to convince her now, but this is non-negotiable, so I'll figure something out. When I saw my daughter coming home from school today, the sense of relief and the anxiety until then made me not want to compromise on this. Do your best. The flow is all over the place, but here are the decided future plans and precautions based on the lawyer's talk. Emails and rough photos might not be enough if it goes to court. It's better to gather evidence of multiple affairs. But considering my daughter, it's best to hurry as much as possible. My wife will be invited to dinner with a ticket arranged by the lawyer, and during that time, the detective agency staff will install cameras and IC recorders in my home. Me, my daughter, and the other man's wife each received an IC recorder from the detective agency. If I want to thoroughly condemn them, it's better to do a DNA test. Proving infidelity from over 10 years ago is difficult, so it might become my strongest trump card. However, this could also cause serious damage to our father-daughter relationship. I should think it over carefully. My daughter and I both agree. We'll take a DNA test tomorrow. I make sure to properly check things like savings and deposits. The detective agency will do their best to examine the data from the non-functioning cell phones. First, the detective agency will monitor the movements of my wife and the other man for about a week. The possibility of relationships with third parties is also considered, and although the investigation period is insufficient, it's enough time to gather evidence of my wife and the other man. The basic goal is to secure custody and a high settlement amount. The lawyer will prepare a draft of the no contact and visitation agreement. Since the other man doesn't seem to have the ability to pay, they will prepare a flexible financial institution in advance. To secure a safe place for my daughter, I explain the situation to my parents as soon as possible. The next morning, I'm searching the house now. Nothing was recorded on the IC recorder in the bedroom. Also, the monkeys don't email much, surprisingly. No findings so far. I guess I'm relying on the detective agency. It's hard to get information if they don't email and only use the phone. It was hard enough just to leave my daughter with my parents, so I feel like if I go to my parents' house too, they'll be extremely wary. The detective agency informed me that the other men enter the house. Do these guys do it every day? I deeply regret not setting up the IC recorder I borrowed from the detective agency. I asked for outdoor photography and recording if possible, but there's currently only one staff member, and daytime photography is too risky, so they don't know how much they can do. I pray for their best efforts without getting caught, but I really want to cremate those monkeys. And at 10 a.m. that day, a phone call from the detective agency. We were able to film it because they started with the curtains open. The faces are clearly recognizable. Since it would be bad if the faces are seen, we'll refrain from further filming even though the act is ongoing. We've determined that recording is too risky. Are those monkeys really that stupid? I feel nauseous having someone else monitor my wife's actions. They're doing it at this hour. I want to call right now and cuss them out like crazy. My boss told me to leave early because I look pale, but what would I do if I left the office now? I asked the detective agency to send the photos, but they said, the content is quite shocking, so it's better to wait until you've calmed down. They'll send digital images, but they told me to wait a while before downloading them. I can't calm down. And an hour later, I left work early. The images showed my wife doing it while wearing my daughter's school uniform. That's too far out there. Daughter, run away. I'm going to kill those guys. Calm down, don't go. I've calmed down a bit. The detective agency informed me that they finished and are sleeping. They said they'll take a series of photos in a little while. I'm starting to think I should just monitor together in the detective agency's car. By the way, what do you honestly think about this? I'm normal, so I can't understand this play, but no matter how charitably I consider it, it seems like the other man is targeting my daughter. Is there a possibility that he just likes uniform play? Your daughter is in danger. He probably wants to do it with the mother and daughter together. I thought so too. I want to throw away the uniform, but it would be suspicious, and I can't ask my daughter. In fact, the uniform my daughter wore today might have been defiled in the past. The word disgusting fits perfectly. Your wife is completely insane. I informed the lawyer that I had obtained decisive evidence and asked what I should do. I also told him about the uniform play and that I'm worried about my daughter. He was totally put off. For now, the evidence of infidelity is sufficient, but depending on the duration of the affair and the results of my daughter's DNA test, this situation could be completely different if it goes to trial. Tonight, after the other man goes to work, the lawyer will meet with the other man's wife's parents and explain the situation. The detective agency said they might be able to read the data from the old devices as early as tonight. It seems like the status quo will continue for a bit longer, but I decided to request a DNA test. Also, something happened on the other man's wife's side, and her message is completely exhausted and doesn't make sense. The lawyer seems to know the circumstances, but he can't say it himself. For now, it seems unrelated to my daughter or wife. I can't stop thinking about it. I have a dinner with my wife at 7 p.m. that night. The dinner ended without incident. Progress from the detective agency. They were able to see the cell phone data, and then's a possibility they were dating before marriage. Regarding my daughter, even my wife may not know whose child she is. So far, there are no suspicious men other than the other man. The hidden cameras at home were successfully set up. The IC recorder I left recorded the sound of this morning's lovemaking. The detective agency collected the IC recorder. It's just a simple report, so I haven't been able to check the IC recorder or cell phone yet. There's still no contact about the other man's wife's situation. The next day, I'm at work. Even though we've prepared a recording system, it seems they won't meet today. The lawyer contacted me, saying that with the data from the old devices retrieved by the detective agency, the evidence of the ongoing affair is quite solid. However, due to an issue on the other man's wife's side, they suggested taking a short investigation break and asked what I want to do. The content is unclear, but I told them I want to settle this quickly for my daughter's sake. The lawyer seems to have expedited the DNA test, so my daughter and I are going to collect samples together tomorrow. It seems they'll handle it urgently with an oral sample. And at night, I got home and had some time, so I'll write about today's events, which will be prerequisites. At 7:23 p.m., a phone call from the other man's wife, roughly the content. "Mr. Coward, are you at work?" "Yes." "Something came up that I wanted to investigate on my side, but the lawyer told me today that you said it was unrelated and wanted to end it quickly." "Yes, I don't want to take too long for my daughter's sake. I'd like to talk a bit. Can we meet somewhere today?" "It depends on work, but it seems difficult." "I understand. I wanted to explain the situation and ask for your help. I don't intend to get too involved, and when I asked right after the problem was discovered, you wouldn't talk about it, so I feel like my cooperation on that matter is unnecessary." "Why are you trying to talk to me about it now?" "Because the trigger for learning about the other man's other issue was the IC recorder's recording on the second day and your wife's old devices. I thought you might have a vague idea and be curious about it. Either way, it seems unrelated, so I don't want to get involved." "I understand. I apologize for the inconvenience. Take care." After that, the other man's wife called my daughter and chatted. Something I find a bit puzzling. The lawyer explained to me that the settlement amount is effectively $450,000 and is almost certain. But what kind of financial institution can they introduce to the other man who has poor ability to pay and will also have a settlement taken by his wife? Why wasn't the IC recorder I set up in the bedroom on the first day not recorded? I thought I took the battery level and settings into consideration. But why? And why was it recorded on the second day? Is it because I changed the location? Is it a coincidence that the Monkeys Act didn't occur when the detective agency finished preparing the recording? Am I getting too paranoid? In today's phone call, it's strange that she said at the beginning, "Mr. Coward, are you still at work?" It's rare for me to work this late, and how does she know I'm at the office? Am I being watched too? I haven't told the detective agency, the lawyer, or the other man's wife that I had set up an IC recorder on the first day. Nevertheless, the other man's wife referred to the IC recorder's recording as the second day. She said she noticed it from the data of my wife's old devices retrieved by the detective agency, but I was told the detective agency retrieved the data on the evening of the same day. The timeline doesn't make sense. I thought it might be a communication error by the detective agency, but even if they retrieved it in the morning, The other man's wife should be at work. The restaurant where the other man's wife suggested meeting is a 2 to 3 minute walk from the hotel where my wife had the same stamp card, and it's in a slightly inconvenient location without parking. Was she trying to get me drunk at the restaurant and take me to the hotel, or set a trap to take photos of me in front of the hotel? The only nearby detective agency is the one I'm currently using. At least no others come up. Was it predicted from the beginning that I would come there? If so, is even the lawyer an accomplice? In the phone call between my daughter and the other man's wife said, "I heard you're playing Pokémon with your coward dad. Be careful because it's becoming a problem of using phones while walking." But how does she know that coward dad is also playing Pokémon? It's true that I told them I wanted my parents to watch my daughter under the pretense that rare Pokémon appear at my parents' house, and my daughter started playing Pokémon to maintain consistency. But I haven't written here that coward dad also started playing Pokémon and walks around together with her, and my daughter hasn't said it either. Are they watching my parents' house too? Hey, the other man's wife is reading this, right? Why were you pretending not to know? Is there something going on behind the scenes? If you can't explain it in a way that satisfies me, I can't continue cooperating with you any further. If you call me between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m., I think my wife will be asleep, so I'll listen to what you have to say. I'm sorry for using the consultation thread in a strange way. I feel like I'm becoming more and more distrustful of people. By the way, I haven't told anyone, including my daughter, that I'm consulting on this bulletin board, and I haven't read or written anything in front of anyone except my daughter. And the next day, I talked on the phone with the other man's wife, and I think I'm somewhat convinced. She's not telling me to stop writing or consulting, and she says she won't expose it. But she was a bit cunning, so I have a feeling of dislike towards her. Tell details of what the other man's wife said. It was a 2-hour phone call, so to summarize the main points. As I told the other man's wife at the end, the content is a bit abnormal. I laughed a little when I heard that's not it, that I expected to hear from the other man's wife. I've actually liked you for a long time, Mr. Coward. I stepped back because you married my friend. When the lawyer first told me that you were having trouble with the other man and your wife, I thought it was my chance and got excited, so I rushed too much. I noticed some uncoward-like behavior, so I searched and found this consultation thread. The other man is a monkey, and the detective agency and lawyer are old men, so I don't think they know about this place, and I haven't told them. Your wife doesn't know. I don't think she's the type to look at internet bulletin boards. When we met at the lawyer's office on October 12th, you were kind, so I thought we could remarry. I panicked when I saw your post saying, "I can't even consider remarrying." The thread users also started criticizing me, so I thought I might be cut off. I'm sorry for deceiving you. I have no intention of stopping or exposing your posts. Regarding the other matter, I became suspicious from the IC recorder and later confirmed it after seeing the data from the old devices. I worded it badly. I've actually been taking consecutive days off work since October 13th. I wasn't in a mental state to be able to work. I was curious about you and your daughter, so I went to your parents' house and office area many times to kill time. I saw your daughter playing Pokémon with you. On the morning of October 13th, I followed you and found out where you park at work. I knew you were at work because I checked your house and office parking lot before calling you, thinking it would be suspicious if your wife was nearby. I got emotional during the past punishment of the other man and failed, so I want you to help me. I'll work hard, so I want you to show affection towards me too. Wouldn't it be a good revenge if we remarried? Today, I have a date with my daughter under the name of a DNA test. The lawyer and, for some reason, the other man's wife are joining us. I'm worried about the long trip and lack of sleep. but my daughter is having the hardest time, so I'll do my best to support her. I don't think the other man's wife is abnormal. When you really fall in love with someone, those actions are within the scope of what can happen. Well, the other man's wife is also confused as the betrayed spouse. Coward, I don't know where you live, but change your lawyer. Of course, I'm changing the lawyer on my side. The other man's wife also says it can't be helped. I have a new lawyer in mind. I receive a call from the other man. He wants to change to a new cell phone to start playing Pokémon. He asked if I could go with him to choose one because his wife seems to have something to do at her parents' house. I refused, saying I have a date with my daughter today, but if the other man starts using a new phone, email forwarding will be meaningless. It'll be painful not knowing the dates and times of their meetings. An email exchange right away. You're going to your parents' house, right? Can you choose a new cell phone for me to play Pokémon? A new cell phone is too much for you. Here, have a Game Boy. Good job, my wife. I'm meeting with the new lawyer tomorrow, and I've told him about this consultation thread, and he's reading it. He said it's better to make a sorry, it was a lie declaration. For now, I'll follow the new lawyer's instructions and make this my last post. Thank you to those who gave me advice and listened to my story. This thread has helped me immensely. Coward, I'm rooting for you. I'm waiting for your report. If you've come this far, you should be fine. I wish you the best. And 1 month later, I'm the one who consulted you before, and I thought I'd report back since things have settled down to some extent, but the thread has already changed. Don't worry about it. Please report. I've included a bit of fake information. My wife. Settlement money of $10,000 to me. Settlement money of $20,000 to the other man's wife. Already paid in full. Gave up custody, joint property, and everything else. The other man. Settlement money of $20,000 to me. Settlement money of $20,000 to the other man's wife. Already paid in full. Prohibited from contacting the other man's wife, me, and my daughter. I left everything, including procedures and meetings, entirely to the lawyer, and just showed up here and there. The lawyer seems to have had a hard time. According to the lawyer, my wife seemed to have been prepared for this for a while, so she didn't get upset and was matter of fact. I talked to her a little while getting the house key back, but somehow it left a bad aftertaste. I thought this would happen someday. I'm really sorry. I cheated on you with the other man before we got married, and I was going to stop after getting married, but it dragged on. My heart was weak. I was having a fairly good time now. It's complicated because our daughter isn't attached to me. When I thought about doing cosplay without spending money, the only thing I had was a school uniform. I've been saving $100 a month for our daughter, so use it as you like. I'll work somewhere out of your sight and live my life. I knew the other man's wife liked you, so I was going to keep quiet even if you had an affair with her. Contact me if you have any problems. I'm worried because you're a coward. I might be able to serve as a scapegoat or something since the rest of my life is like the twilight years. Thank you for everything up until now. The other man. Apparently, he raped the other man's wife's sister, but since the sister herself didn't say anything, it went unpunished. His toxic mother and toxic sister couldn't cover for him anymore, so the settlement money was paid with the other man's father's retirement money. He's still in trouble for things like punching the other man's wife's lawyer. He was kicked out of the house by the other man's wife and is living in a rental property owned by his parents. He voluntarily resigned from his job as a contracted driver. He plans to go for an interview at a local paint store. He barged into the other man's wife's house once and was taken away by the police. He proposed to my wife but was rejected. The other man's wife. She's taking time off work, but her mental state isn't good, so she's going to a psychiatrist. She'll probably quit. She has a good relationship with my daughter. She hopes to remarry me but says she'll wait any number of years. She started playing Pokémon Go. Me. I have a good relationship with my daughter. I'm struggling with erectile dysfunction. I'm keeping my distance from the other man's wife. I got a Holland Lope rabbit. My daughter. She is studying to get into a top school. She seems to find the rabbit unbearably cute. Please forgive me for the occasional mistakes. Since some of the people involved might be reading this, I'll make this my last post. Also, it was discovered that the reason the recorder wasn't recording the first time was that they were doing it in my daughter's room. This was completely unexpected. The cheating wife's attitude is so condescending, it's doubtful she's even reflecting on her actions. I'll help you out if you have any problems since you're a coward, but I guess that's unnecessary. The part about not spending money on cosplay made me laugh. This has been the story of a poster who goes from being a coward to becoming more and more reliable, and in a sense, a story about the other man's wife who is scarier than the cheating wife. By the way, behaviors that make you suspect cheating are locking the phone and taking the phone to the bathroom. Be careful not to be suspected.